Hi, my name is Ben Harrell, and I'm a PhD candidate in economics at Georgia State. I'm one of the co-investigators on this study. I want to thank you for stopping by. So let's start with some definitions of terms we'll be using throughout. First, transgender is a term that refers to the condition of having a gender expression or identity that differs from the sex you're assigned at birth. And non-binary identity is a special case of transgender identity, which essentially rejects classification as male or female altogether. And then finally, cisgender is just the opposite of transgender. It means your gender identity matches the sex you were assigned at birth. So with that in mind, let's talk about the central research questions we aim to address in this study, namely, do trans and non-binary people face discrimination in access to mental health care? And secondly, does race and specific gender identity play a role in moderating that discrimination? And as it turns out, the answer to both of those questions are going to be yes, but more on that later. So, why study the trans experience in mental health care? Well, first of all, trans people face a mental health crisis, mainly as a result of widespread stigma, violence, and discrimination across a broad variety of contexts. Now, we know from the psychology literature that these conditions can give rise to minority stress, a deleterious physiological response that can worsen existing mental health disparities and which compounds for members of multiple minority groups. Trans people are also more likely to be diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. And while counseling and therapy are effective in the treatment of these and many other mental health conditions, it could be the case that trans people face discriminatory barriers to entry. And this could take the form of a specific practice called cream skimming, in which MHPs are going to, mental health professionals, MHPs, are going to curate desirable groups of patients. So you can think of it as discrimination by selective response. So we are in this study going to audit the behavior of selected MHPs in response to these fictitious patients that we create, who are going to email them requesting appointments. And we signal patient characteristics like race, ethnicity, and gender using a carefully selected method of assigning names following Bertrand, Mullainathan, and many, many others. So trans or non-binary identity, however, is going to be directly disclosed by the patient. And we randomly assign these fictitious patients to 1,000 mental health professionals sampled from Psychology Today's Find a Therapist Clearinghouse. And we cluster our sample to be nationally representative. So here in figure 1, you'll see sort of a basic structure of how we build this email from the randomized components, which are bolded in braces. I'll let you pause if you want to take a look at that. And here is an example of a compiled email that would be sent to one of these mental health professionals. Again, you can pause and take a look at it if you want. So once we collect our data, we analyze it with this simple regression. And the main thing that I want to point out here is that our outcome variable appointment is a binary variable that we define based on the classification of MHP responses here in this figure down here. And we are going to cluster our standard errors at the patient level, where each patient sends inquiries to 10 different MHPs, but no MHP gets more than one email per patient. Now, finally, our regression results. We'll start with the baseline. White cisgender people have a response rate of about 61.3%. And when I say response rate, what I mean is that they get a direct offer for an appointment or a consultation offer or a call. And then we show very little evidence of discrimination against cisgender, Black or Hispanic people, and very little evidence of discrimination against white transgender people. All the discrimination that we detect seems to be concentrated on these intersectional groups of African American trans and non-binary people, Hispanic trans and non-binary people, or just non-binary people altogether. So we have a lot to finish up here and complete. our early results do seem to indicate that trans and non-binary people are going to face discrimination in access to mental health care. So thanks for checking out the study. If you have questions or comments, you can reach out to me here, and I look forward to hearing from you if you have those questions. Thanks again for stopping by.